Hi everyone, welcome to another session of corporate strategy. So today's session we will looking into resource related options of understanding of various ways which the organizations make use of the resources to support the business units, for example, and also based on that, whether they have sufficient and adequate or inadequate resources to make those decisions. So the first part of this session is focusing on corporate diversifications, as well as introduce you on equals and self metrics. So diversification, there are many reasons why a company is going into diversification mode to create a portfolio of different types of activities or businesses under of the corporate or under the corporation. There are various motives in there. There are various motives including supporting corporate growth and having more basket of activities to support a corporate vision. There are some side reasons to fulfill the vanity of corporate executive in their managing the bigger portfolio of companies' activities in that remain seem to be related or totally unrelated. But one genuine and good motive also actually allow the company to battle in the few activities in a way separating the risk of being involved in one product and one activity and one line of business. So it's a risk spreading benefits. So instead of putting everything in one basket, the company is able to make use of same resources, but to spread these activities in a few different areas. Ultimately, uh, the motive and diversification ought to be creation of shareholders as well. That is, it is activity, a line of business that the share of business can see that it is creating value for them. So rather than just being involved in one line of business, create certain amount of value and profit for shareholders, the companies are diversify into different pockets of activities that seemingly work for a greater value and spread the risk of being involved in just one line of business. There are three essential tests to justify why diversification should be chosen. For example, if a company is considering diversifying into another line of business, they have to consider and think about these three essential tests to see if it's worth venturing into the new line of business. The first test is attractiveness test. So the attractiveness test can be performed using, for example, Porter's 5 forces. That is, when we are thinking of entering into another industry, the industry must be structurally attractive or capable of being made attractive by managing and controlling those 5 forces well. So in the first phase, that the industry must be profitable, and there's one key reason for high level of profitability is because of the structure. or the five forces structure that allows companies in the industry to enjoy the heightened level of profit. The other way is that some players or some companies in the industry are more than capable of controlling the situation to manage the bargaining powers of the buyers, to managing bargaining power supplies and control the threat of substitutes and new entrants so that they are capable of making the industry attractive for them. So attractiveness test is actually to look into five forces to understand what are the structures or the five structures that chosen industry and whether the chosen industry is attractive or capable of being made attractive. It's a mouthful of explanation, but this is very important that we cover this. The other one is cost of entry test. When we're entering the new industry or the company start to create a new SBU, a strategic business unit in the industry, there are certain cost of, for example, acquisitions, cost of change, a cost of managing change, a cost of learning curve as well. So all these represents the cost of entry, and the cost of entry must not be so great that future profit or the cash flow for the future for the next few years will not be affected drastically because the firm has decided to diversify and venture into area of unknown, or they try to capitalize the profits from other parts of the business in a detrimental way. So the cost of entry test, yes, we understand there's always a cost of entering into a new market or entering a new industry. This cost is foreseeable. This cost is manageable. We are committing X amount of money to get into new industry and nothing more. So we have to ensure the cost of entry that's not well down future profit of the other SBUs that the companies they might have. And the last one is called better off test. By entering new industry or having a new SBU, we must be better off. We must be able to tap into the competitive advantage arising from this new link for the company or organizations, or this new unit will be able to benefit much more for this acquisition than ever before. So the benefit of better offers applies to either a new SBU or the corporate parent or the existing corporation. So Porter's three essential tests measure if the chosen industry is attractive, if the cost of entry is manageable and foreseeable, and as a result of these diversification, the company is better off. So when we talk about diversification, we meaning that the company is actually venturing into area that it has not done so before. So it could be a new business, or it could be a new country, or it could be a new product that the company has not managed or done before. And we can generally divide diversification into three reasons for diversification. So the first reason or the first type of diversification is go into or diversify into an area and industry that is supporting a supply chain. This means we are diversifying into vertical diversification. So let's say, for example, you're in a particular sector of the business in a blue parts, and you're producing something along, for example, that part of the supply chain. One way to diversify is direct diversify into raw materials or your components industry. One then another way to diversify is into customers industry. So this represents vertical diversification. The second category here is horizontal diversification. So imagine you are, for example, in one particular industry, what you are diversifying into another industry along the same positions in the value chain or the supply chain. So you are diversifying into another line of business involved into similar activities as the stage you are in terms of the supply chain or in terms of value chain. So for example, if you're a raw material supplier in electronic industry, so you're making some components for electric industry. So you're supplying also some of the raw material, or for example, silicon or plastic into this industry as well. You are basically diversifying into another area of raw material and another areas of raw materials, which is that means it is along the same stage of your supply chain or value chain. Because it is in along the same stage, the activities and the strategies would be in a way somewhat similar. And that is the benefit of diversifying horizontally into areas of industry that is much related to yours in terms of strategy, the procurement, the way you manage it, the way you manage the customer, and etc. So the last diversification that we're going to talk about is conglomerate diversification. In this diversification, we are diversifying into industry that is a basket of activities and they are not related at all. That we are diversifying into different industries along different path of value chain and supply chain. Somewhat we try to obtain some synergy from these unrelated industries and unrelated diversification. A good example of this diversification would be, for example, Korean chambers and some Japanese market. For example, the Koreans, for example, they involve in different, for example, Samsung, from electric goods to white goods into industrial equipments, constructions. All these are not related. They always represent different SBUs represented to the companies and bottom line and profitability, and that is conglomerate. We have the following question to ask. Is the chosen diversification area attractive, or can it be made to be attractive? So what is attractive to another firm may not be attractive to our firm, or what is not attractive to another firm or company can be attractive to our company or organization, depending on the nature of the business we are in and the resources that we are holding, and the way we are holding or creating the strategy to manage or managing those resources. That's what the strategy about, where we look into the general consensus of whether the other player managing the industry better in terms of the five forces or not, or if so, how can we managing better? And because different companies or organizations, they have different capabilities and resources, that there are always a possibility through the strategic management we're able to secure certain things that the other companies or competitors cannot do well, and we build a wall or barriers to protect those capabilities and resources. The second area, or the second question that we need to ask is whether the cost of entries to the new business or outweigh the perceived future benefit, meaning the cost that you are spending to enter the new business is or doesn't you getting that benefit or much benefit compared to putting in the money into the same company or growing original business. And the last question is, as a result of this investment, will the company gain or better or gain competitive advantage? And does the proposed diversification add value to the company or to the shareholders? Company's shareholders. This is about shareholders' value and whether that diversification add a greater value or not. So there are some advantages and perceived advantages as a result of the diversification. By diversifying into unrelated area of business or related business area of the business, it might increase our market power, and we are able to tap into our existing market to sell the new product. We are able to grow our existing market share because of the new diversification. So all related to market size, market strength, and market power. If the diversifications can provide us some aspect of this. Another consideration here for diversification and perceived competitive advantage is to increase our resources. So that's why if we spend money buying a new company or going to a new area, hopefully this new area will add to the amount of resources. So you are spending financial resources to going to this area that might helping some of the or getting some of the resources, but in exchange you are gaining some other resources, and there's of course there's a cost of entry. Is this new resources worthwhile to gain? Does it complement your existing resources? Does it add a greater advantage to the company in terms of capabilities, in terms of resources? Of course, if you have vertical integrations, you may achieve certain economies or scope or economies of scale, as well as economies from internalizing transaction. And this is what we call as pecuniary externalities. So by looking into that, there are definitely well, you know, but they're diversifying into certain or one certain area, we be able to get to know a core structure better, and thereby creating greater advantage. For example, if you diversify into one area, buy company into, for example, raw material area, you get more information into that area. Therefore, you can be able to manage your relationship with supplier better because you actually know the core structure. And the reason why you're buying from another supplier, despite the fact that you are producing it, is because they can do it far cheaper and far better than yourself. And so these are some of the advantage or perceived advantages arising from diversification. So we can actually categorize the diversification into related and unrelated diversification as well. So what are the advantage of potential advantage? So we try to tighter control or achieve of the supply chain, or better control of the market, over the quality, over your industry. We have better access to industry information, as what we discussed previously, and also we can gain a develop skill base and technology know-how in related area, thereby expanding your capability. Now, when we talk about the reason of unrelated diversifications, it could be to hedge the effect of industry life cycle, the economic life cycle, and etc. Sometimes, and this has to be admitted, is that the companies do go for unrelated diversification simply to enhance their personal and the vanity, to say that, hey, I'm not just running one type of company, I'm running multiple type of companies. This shows that we have a broad range of capabilities and capable of managing it. So basically, enhancement of vanity, which possibly it might be a wrong motive, but such in reality of industry. One way of going into unrelated diversification, or one stroke reason, or one strong advantage, is actually to start evolutionary change in a company's purpose. Perhaps you're involved in industry that is in a mature stage, for example, newspaper or media industry. So media industry or newspaper industry may be problematic because people are going online, people relying uh, news that are spread on social platform rather than traditional sources of news covering those war zones and markets for reporters. So what are these newspapers like Rooster doing? They're going into areas that might be related and unrelated to diversify or create evolutionary change, maybe from newspaper to printing books, from newspaper to real estate, and that may do the company good on longer run. So there is uh, lots of discussion around this. When should one diversify? And there are many examples out there. For example, organizations consistently looking into different ideas for organizational growth. And when there are opportunities in the marketplace, like for example, someone wants to sell a business, you're looking to the viability of buying those businesses. It also applies when the core business has excess capacity or excess resources. It also applies when the core business not doing well. So, for example, if we are a company that has been printing newspaper for the last 100 years, over the last 100 years, we accumulated so much ability, so much resources. And we know it is not a growth industry, and we are constantly looking better ways satisfying the shareholders, or better way to getting a high level of profit. So, for example, looking into Porter's 5 forces is because we understand the industry A and industry B had a different leverage level of the profitability. So in some industries, we know that it's highly profitable, and we know some industries there are lower profitability. So some industry profitability can be high as 30-40%, whereas some industry can be considered profitability of just like 5%. So that companies are seeking to look for investment into industry that give them better value, meaning better level of profitability. And that's why companies are always going into um, proposal to diversify. Um, and there might be other reasons as well, but these are the main reasons that we cover. So we talk about the diversification, and we talk about 3 key modes of diversification. So the 3 key ways we mentioned many times today is mergers and acquisitions. The second one is a strategic alliances, and these perhaps related to partnership. So strategic alliances is a less formal arrangement than merger and acquisition, and partnership. It could be just a verbal agreement, and the 2 companies that work as a business partner, and the 2 companies shall provide this particular product together. It's just like alliances. The third mode here is of course internal development, rather than a buyer company or working with another company, and we have to manage things like cultural differences or slight differences in objectives and goals, and different conflicts between managers. We seek to grow the company's capability and develop the company's capability in the new business areas through internal development instead of investing the money. For example, $1 million in a new business, we can spend this $1 million in growing the capability of the staff by sending them to training, giving them opportunities, etc., to venture into new area of business. So that is growth by internal development. So all this required an understanding of the concept of resources, capability, and emerging and combining these resources and capabilities, and it is outcome from looking at the internal environment of the firm, and of course we need to always consider the external industry environment, and of course understanding the matching the distinctive capabilities with a key success factor that comes from the external environment. Igor Insov, Professor Igor Insov, proposed that a company should seek different strategies when they are involved in different kind of activities. So in the case of new market versus existing market, and then case of new product versus the existing product. So unsolved matrix is pretty simple, but it's talking about how, for example, if you're in the current present in terms of products and market, how we can consolidate or into the market penetrations. So there are a couple of ways to do that. For example, one way is product development. We're looking into new product for our current customers that we are holding, right? So that's one way. Or we're looking into market development. We're looking into new segments, new territories, new users, or looking into internalizations of our products. And also, we can looking into diversifications that we're talking about. Now, let's move into corporate parenting and ASHRIDGE parenting matrix. Corporate parenting is how a corporate parent supports its different strategy business unit and the relationship of the parent to the child or parent to the business unit, so that when all the businesses fit together, all the different SPUs fit together, there's a greater synergic effect that we can see. So corporate parenting is how the corporate parent, for example here, manages its SPUs. So all the little boxes at the bottom, the businesses are the different business unit that the corporate parent has. Now we're talking about the concept of corporate parenting, where we talk about how the corporate headquarters may add value or may distract value from the business unit. So then the question is, if the parents doesn't add any value to the business unit, and then why should they be the parents, or why should they continue to be the parents to the business unit? Why they should continue to have the business? Why, if there's no value added to the business? So the concept of the corporate parenting therefore become very important, and access the questions as a barrier for the companies to think about as a parent, as it then driving the benefit to the parent, the field of the business, the parent uh, provide resources in managing these subsidiaries. Let's have a look at 4 different roles that parents can play. First role is that of the portfolio manager. So most of us invest in shares and stocks, and we buy the company because we like the brand of the company, we like what it's represent for, we know the company, they are profitable, that's why we buy the company. But really, you're not involved in the right of the company, although you're a shareholder, but you're not making big decisions for the company, and you leave those decisions made by themselves. You're in fact like a portfolio manager. So some corporate parents behave like a portfolio manager, where they see that this is a worthwhile company to invest, and they buy the company. And when the company is not performing well, they sell the company. So that is like in level like a portfolio manager. The second type of corporate parent is a restructurer. So restructurer is a very hands-on. So they think that when you acquire the company is not performing to its optimum. So they see the role of improving the performance of the company. So if you think about a parent, They are adopt a child, for example. They educate the child, they give the best to the child, and the child is able to do, and then they will, at the end, for example, sell the child. So the transfer and to add value, the restructure company. So there's not much of feeling into the SBU. It's just the idea is just to increase the value. So the third type of corporate role is synergy manager. So it applies more in the case of related diversification, vertical diversification, and a horizontal diversification. And clearly, there is a relationship between different SPUs. And idea is to achieve economies of scope by having these different businesses so that resources can be shared and in a synergy benefit can be derived. So you might have a marketing managers in SBA and they can make use of um, that person in helping to improve the SPU B. Therefore, both A and B. So you don't need two marketing managers. So the same marketing manager can do the job. So I'm saving skills and sharing skills. So that is the role of synergistic manager to identify synergy and create synergy between different SPUs. The fourth role and the last role of the corporate parenting is parental developer. So parental developer. So in this case, it's not just creating a synergy, but it is into a deeper analysis on how can the parent add greater value to the SPUs, but providing more opportunities for the SPU. So surely, if the parent has only one SPU, there will be very little opportunity. But there's a cross sharing of SPU, there will be cross sharing of benefits. For example, if we secure a major contract and we have two business units along the value chain or supply chain, the vertical and the vertically integrated, then the contract that is applicable to one of the SPU is also applicable to the other SPU. Not only driving a synergy, we are actually creating more opportunities and more profit for sure for the company. So it also depends on whether the parents managing a pool of related portfolios of businesses or whether the parents managing conglomerate diversifications or diverse portfolio. And of course, in diverse portfolio, it's more likely the parents is a portfolio manager, and if it's a pool related portfolio, it can be more likely the parents is a synergy manager or parental developer. Having said that, it is possible that parent can be play different roles to the different SPUs. For SPU A, B, and C, the parent can be managing as a synergy manager, and then for some of other SPUs, the parent can be acting as a restructurer or a portfolio manager. So we talk about four different type of corporate parents. That was theory A. Now we're talking about ASHRIDGE parenting matrix, which is theory B. These two theories are a bit related, of course, and just like the strategy clock and Porter's generic strategy is a bit related, but it is different theories. So the ASHRIDGE parenting matrix talk about the fit between the SBU's key success factors and the corporate parent resources. So let's talk about a key success factors. Key success factors is actually possessing certain attributes that satisfy the needs of industry that we remember from the previous sessions. So the key success factors come out of the approach of the external factors. So actually it's help us to know how to survive the company's industry and what the customer wants. So does the corporate parent have the feel and knows how to support their SBU's key success factor? Some corporate parents have actually no clue what's the industry about, where some parents knows the ins and outs of the industry and they're able to provide relevant and suitable resources for it. So in these cases, we talk about high fit between SBU's key success factor and corporate parent resources. Next, we talk about how the corporate parents are able to provide opportunities in view of the resources they has. So this is about the benefits. And in some businesses, the corporate parents are able to provide little benefits. In some SBUs, the corporate parents are able to provide lots of benefits, or lots of synergistic benefits. And in this case, where company or corporate parents is low, for example, on the field, on the low on the benefit, these businesses or this portfolio is what we can classified as alien businesses. And in a case where the corporate parents have a strong feel on the other side and a strong benefits, these are the core businesses as what we call as heartland business for corporate parent. So if we understand the heartland and alien businesses, so it's as close as heart, for example. They know exactly, for example, in heartland, how to support these businesses and how to provide benefit to these businesses. The alien businesses, they don't have much feel for it and they cannot provide opportunities because it is not in the main line of the business. That's why we call it alien business. Now, the problem is sometimes we acquire business that is really don't know what's happening, no feel for it. We find ourselves always wanting to give benefit or give resources to it. We pumping lots of money into the business. That's what we call value trap business. Business, what we don't know what's happening, and businesses that we spend lots of money. That's a danger zone. And then the last one, it calls ballast business, where the company and the corporate parent feels very high for this business, but really not able to pumping resources into this. Therefore, it's called ballast business. It's not good for SBUs. So the ASHRIDGE parenting matrix is very interesting, and it comes from ASHRIDGE Business School in the UK and provides a classification of different kind of SBUs and how the corporate parents have the sufficient field and able to provide sufficient benefits to support the different kind of SBUs. In conclusions, we're always looking into how to get more value from resources where market opportunities are limited. For example, to standardize product, improve linkage on the value chain, supply chain, improve corporate parenting, invest in new equipment or system, and product innovation to add the values that we're looking for.
So that's it for today's session, and thank you very much, and all the best.